How's it going, gamers, and welcome to the channel. My name is Q. I hope you guys are having a great week. It's been a little bit over a week now since the launch of the Series X and the Series S and the PlayStation 5. So I've had a little bit over a week playing around with both systems. And in this video, we're going to talk about something different. We're going to talk about standardization in the gaming industry. And, this has developed, ever since the gaming industry revitalized itself in the 80s when Nintendo came in and kind of rescued the market, right? Since then, there's been several innovations in the gaming industry. With the conversion from 2D to 3D, Nintendo brought forth the analog stick. And with the analog stick, with the N64, PlayStation soon adopted and put two analog sticks in, and that's why we have the DualShock. Microsoft has adopted that along with Sega and other gaming controllers, and then the analog stick just became normal practice, right, for maneuvering games in 3D with a controller instead of a mouse and keyboard. And then also during the N64 era, Nintendo brought forth the Rumble Pack for vibration, right? And now that's a standard within the whole gaming industry with just force feedback. And then again, Nintendo innovated with the next iteration of Rumble, which is HD Rumble that they've labeled, but pretty much what that is haptic feedback. And haptic feedback is now being adopted by Sony with the DualSense controller. And ironically, the company that worked with Nintendo to bring forth the next generation of Rumble with haptic feedback is Immersion Corporation. And they're also the same company that Sony decided to tap for the DualSense controller as well. So this is great news because, as you guys all know, if you guys own a Switch, the Joy-Cons are very expensive controllers because of the tech that's built inside that, and most likely the tech is that licensed haptic feedback technology and patent that Immersion owns, that Nintendo is licensing out within their Joy-Cons. And the fact that Sony now is most likely using Immersion, which they are, most likely they're using probably a second generation version of the haptic feedback, that only bodes well for the gaming industry as a whole. And really now it's really on Microsoft's side now. I think Microsoft, they need to adopt haptic feedback, and whether they license it from Immersion, which Immersion seems like they are in every device. They're in mobile devices, they're in Oculus, they're in a lot of the VR headsets. So I would suggest that Microsoft, if their next iteration of controllers, hopefully within the next year or so, maybe we get a Elite Controller 3 that has haptic feedback, and maybe they bring out a standard Xbox controller, maybe with the launch of Halo Infinite in 2021, with a special controller with haptic feedback, right, and adaptive triggers. If Microsoft decides to adopt the haptic feedback technology, this is only going to lower the cost of the technology, because now you have not only Nintendo and Sony, but you have Microsoft in the forefront of pushing this technology. So once this technology was very expensive, it can become very much more affordable, because the sheer amount of volume that they would be pushing on these controllers from both Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony would only drive the cost of the haptic feedback motors and parts down, right? And that's what we're hoping here, because if they can save money on the parts and it becomes more standardized, then the parts can hopefully drive down pricing, or we just get better haptic feedback technology and the pricing of the controllers don't go up, right? Because I think right now at $59 is kind of like the sweet spot for controllers. I know Sony and Nintendo's kind of pushing that to the $69 and $79 range, but if, like I said, and this is a big if Microsoft decides to adopt this, hopefully this will drive down pricing, because again, going back to the whole, technology is very expensive if it's not adopted, worldwide or globally, right? So the fact that if the three top console manufacturers decide to adopt this technology, it would only benefit us, because their costs will go down and the controllers will remain a good, consistent price point that's affordable to the consumer. The other thing about this is that if Microsoft decides to adapt, and support haptic feedback, then this only bodes well for general support across third parties, because right now, just looking at where we're at with haptic feedback, it's really going to be the first parties like a Nintendo, like a Sony, that's going to be driving the technology. Third parties are not going to spend a lot of time and effort into it unless it can be done very easily and seamless, and it's accepted across the board. And the fact that right now we're in a cross-generational moment right now with the transition from PS4 and Xbox to the new generation systems, there's still a lot of games out there that are being made that are cross-generational, right? So because of that, you're probably not going to see, unless the developers spend the time and effort into adding the haptic feedback engine into the games for those specific platforms. Right now, that would be the Switch and would be the the PlayStation 5. So again, it's something that I think is a good point that we need to bring up and kind of discuss, because there's other technologies out there that still aren't really standardized. If you think about like the gyros in the Nintendo controllers with the Pro controller and the Joy-Cons, there's a gyro sensor in the DualShock 4 and the DualSense controller as well, and Microsoft's the only one that doesn't have gyro, a gyro in their controller itself. So when you talk about motion aiming, for first-person shooter games, there's a lot of games on the Switch that take advantage of that, and Sony has the ability to support that too as well. But I think you're seeing that it's very selective. It's not a lot of games that do support gyro aiming. There's always been a push to have games support that. Doom is one game that supports gyro aiming for the Switch, and I think for Microsoft, they need to get their shit together, and in their next evolution of controllers, whether it be the Elite Controller 3 or the next iteration of the Xbox controller, they need to add gyro mechanics in there along with haptic feedback. And if they can do that, then for us gamers, a lot of these standard components within across the board, regardless of whatever platform you guys play on, from a console perspective, you're going to benefit from companies now looking across the three competitors and going, okay, this is a common feature set, so they'll adopt it, and that'll allow for much more immersive gameplay. Like I said, very exclusive to the console side of the business. As a PC gamer, with mouse and keyboard, there's not a lot of things you want to do with haptic feedback and other things that you would normally do in a console space, where you have you have a combination of both casual and hardcore gamers, but usually the casual folks, they're wanting to get into gaming fairly easily without having to make it too complicated. So things like this would only benefit that, right? So yeah, I just want to kind of bring up the topic here, and just looking at history and how things really play out, it really takes a collective whole to support a common set of standards within the gaming industry in order to make it much more accepted by all the developers out there. So let's cross our fingers, and let's see if Microsoft decides to adopt haptic feedback and gyro aiming, or the gyro sensor in their controllers, and bring their controller a little bit more up to speed, with some of the technologies that are now being supported by Sony and Nintendo platforms, and we'll see where it goes from there. So with that, you guys, go ahead and post your comments down below. If you like the video, go ahead and hit a like. If you're new here, subscribe to support the channel. If you dislike the content, go ahead and dislike, so I know what kind of content to steer away from. But I thought that this would be a good conversation, a quick video to just talk about the future of console gaming, and how things normally operate within the console gaming ecosystem, and that when there's innovation that happens, it's okay for competitors to copy each other, to adopt that, because the adoption of that technology only means that that technology is going to be accepted and is going to be standardized across the board, right? So if that didn't happen, we wouldn't be where we're at today with things like, you know, the analog sticks, the force feedback, you know, the motion controls, a lot of different things. You know, a lot of these companies will take risks in bringing out new innovative technologies, and then it really takes other competitors to adopt the same technology or similar and make it a standardization within the gaming industry. So with that, guys, have a great week. I hope you guys are hopefully able to spend some time with your family with the holidays coming around, with everything that's happening in the world. And you know what, gaming, it offers a great escape for you guys to just relax and just enjoy and have fun with the people you love. So I hope you guys are enjoying your PlayStation 5s, your Xbox, your Nintendos, or whatever you guys are playing on, and have a great week, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.